If I start to feel like I'd like to be making more money, the first thing I start asking myself is, what does the company need that I could bring? One of the things that does for you is you start thinking like the business owner. And that can reach into 1,000 different ways. That can mean we have to be at the shop at 7. I come in at 6 and I want to prep everything so that we're ready to go out the door, because that increases production and it cuts 2 days off of when the job's going to be completed. As an employee, if you want to be growing, if you want to be moving up, you have to be bringing more value to the company.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cost of Doing Business podcast. This is a new one. We are sitting in my living room on a cold winter evening, drinking coffee and hot cider with the wood stove going on behind us. And I'm here with none other than my cousin, Ben Zimmerman, who's been working for Tussey for...
It's coming up on 10 years.
I was going to say, it's getting close to 10.
I don't think it's 10 yet, but
it's
8 or 9.
Yeah, it's getting right around the corner. And I'll let him introduce himself properly, but if you follow the Tussey Landscaping YouTube channel from back in the day when I was doing it, working at Tussey Landscaping, you basically know that Ben came in, worked with me for 3 or 4 years, and then ultimately took over my crew and the social media at Tussey Landscaping while I went off and started SynkedUP. So anyway, thanks for coming, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You betcha.
We need excuses to hang out more.
It's a shame.
We spent so much time together, had a lot of fun, and now it seems like I've gone into my world and Weston's gone into his world.
Mostly that cave up there in my office.
I don't know how you do that. Some days I feel bad for you, but then I remember all the times working with you, and it's like, yeah, anything he's getting up there, he deserves. So.
Well, give everybody listening, for those listening that don't know you or the background, or maybe even don't even know the Tussey Landscaping origin, the story of how SynkedUP came out of Tussey, give everybody a bit of a snapshot of who you are, who Tussey is, and what the jobs look like that you work on and that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. My dad owned a nursery. We sold flowering shrubs and perennials, and I think that was, well, Wes and I were cousins, so we kind of grew up together. He was quite a bit older than me, but Tussey was always coming to my dad's place to get plants, and that was probably the initial real point of contact with Tussey Landscaping. Mm-hmm. And Weston was always on my case. Hey, we need good guys. We need good guys. What he needed was a workhorse. Someone wasn't smarter than him that could, run the shovel. So in a family business, you already reach the point where dad doesn't pay you enough money anymore. And so it's not that Weston was attractive, it's that the pay raise was what I was going after. So eventually he got me to work for Tussey, and we worked, I worked with you for 3 or 4 years, probably. And that was invaluable experience. And during that time, Weston was looking for ways to make himself valuable to Tussey. And one of the ways that Tussey said that he could do that was managing the social media. And so we were shooting YouTube videos, which, by the way, if you have someone that you want to train into the company, put him on the social media crew, because I think I learned faster, or trade faster that way, because he was always explaining, we did a lot of how-to videos and that kind of stuff. So I felt like that maybe shortened my learning curve, because I held GoPros while he talked about how to do things over and over again. So that might be an incentive to start filming your own projects. But even before I came on the scene, Tussey was looking for a software to do scheduling and time tracking and job costing, and it seemed like there were no great options that, there was always one app that did something really well, but then it completely was missing on other things that they needed. Am I right about that? Mm-hmm. And so Weston naively decided to build his own thing.
Accurate.
I'm not sure if he knew going forward.
Not a chance.
If he would do that.
Not a chance that I knew.
Yeah.
That I knew what I was signing up for.
Would you do it again?
Yeah. It's probably good that I didn't know, honestly.
So, yeah, probably it is.
Yeah.
So he started building his own. He got pretty involved in that. Eventually got to the point where he was doing 2 things badly and nothing very well. And
these things happen. Owners, a lot of exactly.
I don't know if that was a needful stage in his life, but I think he would have been better to not have that stage. It was a frustrating time in my life because he was in the field trying to run an install crew, and he was also like spearheading this software development thing. And so he was pretty absent in both departments. I was not in control of the project. It was not my responsibility. But there was that frustrating time period in there where no one was really sure who was in charge of what. And that was probably one of the roughest periods of my...
Yeah. How long do you think that lasted? Like a year and a half?
Probably, I don't think
2
it was
years?
more than a year.
Yeah. There was 1 year that was particularly bad.
Yeah.
I still remember.
Yeah, that was not ideal. And eventually, the thing that you were growing grew to the point where you needed to be there.
Yeah.
And I did not feel like I was ready to take on the construction. I probably was, but I definitely got pushed off the cliff. He's like, I'm gone. So Tussie's like, well, you're stepping up. And there was a lot to learn, even though I had been doing it for 3 or 4 years. Not only was it the whole managing a construction site, but the social media part of it got handed over as well. And so I felt like the learning curve was pretty steep. I was learning 2 new things at one time. And but that was good. It's good to take on challenges, and looking back, yeah, that was great. I don't regret any of that. So now, 8 years later, he is no longer in Tussie, I don't think at all. Maybe he's still signed into the social media accounts.
Yeah,
but I don't think he does a whole lot with that. Other than, hey, we reached another milestone of subscribers and this is great. So
yeah.
he's still in on that. I'm doing full-time design build. We do outdoor living spaces. My crew does, if you follow our channel, you know we do a lot of water features. That's really where Tussie won me over. I love building water features, so we do a lot of those. But Tussie as a whole, it does much more than water features. You know, we do complete outdoor living spaces, and you know they really range anywhere from 10 grand to $1 million.
Yeah,
so,
literally over $1 million.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest projects was $1.5 million or something like that. So, and Tussie at this point I think is doing 600,000.
Mid sixes, millions.
Yeah. Obviously, we did talk about how SynkedUP was created out of Tussie's need for a software to do their thing. So really, we were the first people to use it. We went through all the growing pains, all the learning curves. Does Tussie still own SynkedUP to Sync? I'm not sure what
Steve and Matt are still partners in SynkedUP.
I don't know what that connection looks like. I just know that when it doesn't work, I can scream directly at Weston. That's all that really matters.
Well, to that point, we still use Tussie Landscaping as a bit of a guinea pig, so to speak, on new stuff. And remember, it was about a year ago, almost a year ago, when we were sitting in the conference room showing you designs of the new app, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, to a degree, Tussie has a special place in our product research and feedback. And hey, try this. Tell us what you think. And of course, when you're trying the stuff, tell us what you think. That means some stuff is a work in progress.
We're generally polite.
Very forgiving. Yeah. What was interesting about this latest round of the mobile app was I had fairly well trained all the Tussie people to go talk to the support team if they had a question on something. And this latest round of going through the mobile app again meant, oh yeah, my phone would blow up regularly.
Yeah, there was definitely Tussie roundtable discussions about what the crucifixion should look like for you. But I think it was
never came to fruition.
It was mainly in love, I think.
Yeah. I probably do owe you guys all a breakfast.
Yeah,
again.
There was definitely some promises made in that.
That never happened. I should make that happen next week.
Yeah, I think probably.
Yeah. One of the things that you said that I had to smile at a little bit was how you said you enjoy building water features because do you remember the season when you very much did not enjoy them?
Yes, there's a reason for that. It's not it's not the easiest thing to learn, and you have to see a lot of them go together.
Yes, you have to see it happen again and again and again.
Together.
Like, if you're getting into water features and you've done 6 water features and you're wondering why it's not going well or not going better than it is, I mean, get your first 100.
Maybe I'm a really slow learner, but each one is, a hardscape is fairly consistent, you know? There's always different grades and pitches. I'm not saying hardscape is easy. It's not.
Well, you know what's different about it is you can check it with a tape measure and a level, and a laser.
Everything is so fluid in water features.
Yeah, like in hardscape, it's either right or it's wrong. There's no in between. It's either level or it's not. And with water features, it's like handwriting.
Yeah.
There's many kinds of beautiful handwriting.
Yes.
You know.
And that makes it difficult to teach.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And because of that, there's a time when I hated them because I was learning lots of new things, and that one was definitely overwhelming. But when I saw enough of them come together so that I learned like the process of it, eventually you're allowed to release your artistic ability into them and spend less time focusing on making it work.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with water features is they're very easy to screw up.
Yeah.
Like just functionally how they work, right? And so a lot of new guys getting into it will soak all of their energy on trying to make sure it works properly. And
they should.
It's almost like you can't do both at the same time. Yeah, you should, right?
You should.
The point is you got to do it so often until like the functional part is just like second nature. Mm-hmm. It's not taking up, it's not stressing you out. It's not soaking up all your brain share or all your energy, and you can focus on the creative aspect and making it look beautiful.
At the risk of going down a bunny trail, I do think that learning curve gets smaller every year. I see people that they're learning faster now than they ever have.
Yep.
And that is because what I didn't do was sit down and watch hours and hours of people building on social media, YouTube.
Yeah.
And I should have done that. That would have helped me.
Yeah, think of remember Rob and Kev from New York?
I'm astounded.
Those guys, they won Artist of the Year, and they are deserving.
Yeah.
Like they are, and I don't know how many water features they've built total, but I bet you, I wouldn't be surprised if it was under 100 by the time they had won Artist of the Year. And that's remarkable.
So don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
You can bring that, and there's potential. I know I have some friends in East Lancaster area. Mm-hmm. There's like 2 people in there that do that.
Oh, it's such a great market to get into.
You could easily do that more.
Yeah.
Everyone's scared about it.
Because of the functional problems. Yeah. The one thing I will say about water features is that it's a luxury item, meaning you go to any city in America, there will be a certain amount of people that wake up and be like, hey, we need to redo our patio, or we need a place for our picnic table, or whatever, right? But not so many will wake up and say, oh, we need a water feature. They're either going to have to see it on social media or see it in person. And eventually they'll be like, that's really cool. Man, that's awesome. And they start going down the bunny trail and they become an enthusiast. And so one of the key ways that Tussie got into the water feature market, in a rural market really, like we're 2 hours from the closest international airport here, is that they built in-ground physical displays at public locations. They put a pond in, they put a pondless in, they put a bubbling rock in, put a sign up with a brochure right there. And that was how they got into it and generated demand.
It works.
It very much works.
And I know other people who have followed that same pattern.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. To your point about people accelerated, like learning quicker, very true. And you know, a lot of the people that were winning Artists of the Year prior to the last 2 years, I would say, had been doing it for decades. Mm-hmm. And for myself, at the time that we won it, I was doing it for 10 years before we won it. And what I felt like I learned through like you coming onto the crew and taking over was like, okay, I got it to the point where I could build a really nice looking waterfall, but then, wow, trying to get somebody else to be able to say, to look at the same rock that I'm looking at and saying it doesn't look good because of that.
Yes.
Or no, not just because of it, just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
You know, why doesn't it look good?
Not helpful.
Yeah. And so I'd be like, yeah, no, rip that out. That doesn't look right. Now pick another rock. And Ben's like, well, what? What's wrong with it? You said it needed to be 2 feet high and it's 2 feet high. And I'm like, yeah, but, and then I would sit there struggling trying to explain that. I had no words. I didn't know how to explain. I didn't know how to articulate. I knew
He's not lying. He was really bad at that.
I did know it didn't look good, but here's what I learned from I would say the 3 years where you came and really took over your own ownership over your own waterfalls was that what I learned out of that was how to articulate what looks good and what doesn't.
Yes.
And that is something that I think was a little unique or uncommon because when you look at a lot of the other companies that have, done really well with water features, it's rare that it expands beyond the one artist.
Yeah.
Or, it does. It does, especially like Jack and Al. Yeah, but yeah.
I know what you're saying.
It's rare. It's very easy for the talent or the skill to just stay with the one artist. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I ultimately got to the point where there was really 7 principles of natural looking water feature building that I ultimately landed with. And actually, I think it was the second contractor summit event that we did at Tussey. This was just as SynkedUP was getting off the ground. We spent a whole day doing a classroom session on water feature building, and I taught the whole room those same 7 principles that I had just learned from teaching Ben in the field. And we recorded it, and we actually put it on a course. We'll put the link in the show notes. I think it's buildnaturalwaterfeatures.com, if I remember correctly. But anyway, if you guys are wanting to get into water features and skip the learning curve of building 100 in the ground before they look good and get to maybe 15 to 20 before they start looking great, that's one way of doing it. The other thing I think is very unique about your story, Ben, at Tussey is the whole thing of not only did you take over managing a construction site, but also the social media. And I think that's something that makes, that a lot of people are interested in hearing about. So from your aspect, how can you do that? Like, people have a hard enough of a time finding people to just manage a construction site, let alone do the social media. And it's pretty rare, I would say, that the social media, in the same way I was just saying the thing about the artist, that there's a lot of landscapers and hardscape companies and stuff out there that do really good social media, but it's rare that it expands beyond the main man, the main person, the main, owner usually in that company. And at Tussey, it's not that at all. Yeah. In fact, Steve and Matt have almost nothing to do.
I would say that it falls in 2 categories in our industry. Mostly falls in 2 categories. If people do a social media thing, if they have a social media presence, it's either the owner who's spearheading that, or then it's a big enough company that they have an entire, division for that. They have a marketing person, or persons,
right?
And there's a lot of people in between that spectrum that there's potential there. And the first thing I would say to that is, do it. I would say that maybe 50% is too high of a number, but a lot of the projects I do, they have either been entirely sold on our company via our YouTube channel, or at least influenced by it, as far as what they want to do, and they know they want to go. And the other thing that's really cool is coming into just about all of the projects I come into, the people know me. They know my personality. They know my family. They know the kind of things that I build, and it's really fun to come in to do an install, and the person's like, I know who you are. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And the other thing of it is, I just think of one client off the top of my head that he wasn't very local to our area, and he is into RVs, and he was searching RVs on YouTube for something, and the outdoor living algorithm suggested us and water features, and he's like, this is really cool. And so he watched a bunch of our videos. It's like, I want to do this in my backyard. Well, long story short, we have done well over $1 million worth of work for that person in the last 3 years in the course of 6 or 7 different projects. And that is revenue that Tussey would never have seen if they would have not had that. And so one of the things that I get that I think people get lost in is that you can spend a lot of time, money, and energy for the first 2 years, and you can say, I sure haven't gotten a lot out of this yet. But if you get that one client, that single client has paid Tussie's cost in
all the media,
all social media efforts in the past 10 years, time and time again.
Well, I was going to say, to your point about the 2 years, so this client, like, would you, when was that time that you reached out? Was that a couple years ago?
Probably no more, it was 3 years ago maybe.
So 3 years ago, and we first started publishing a weekly video on YouTube in 2013.
Right.
So 10 years later.
Yeah.
10 years later is when that started happening.
Get ready for the grind, is what I'm saying. But it's going to pay for itself.
Yeah, it does. It very much does.
And I know there's more. It's just that one is a particularly strong example. So that's why I wanted to use that one. But,
exactly. And also, what about the client you said before we started recording, the one that you just worked for in West Virginia?
Yeah, I just did a project for, and this wasn't a massive project, but they want us to come back. But yeah, they have been following our YouTube channel, watching our builds for probably 10 years or more. They knew about Weston. They asked about Weston, and Weston hasn't been in the field for forever.
2020, so almost 5 years.
Yeah, and so these people were watching us for over 10 years. And finally it was like, hey, the time is right. We want to do a project. And they live in West Virginia. We live in central Pennsylvania. I know there's people that could have built what we built in between here and there.
Yeah,
but because that connection was made, Tussie was the people they called.
See, that's the point to remember about social media, if you're like, I don't know if it's worth the grind or whatever, is that, and you already made this point, Ben, is that it does the selling for you. And so if you're feeling like, man, how do I differentiate myself? Keep getting undercut by the cheaper contractor.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to work so hard to win the jobs. Well, make it an apples and oranges thing. You know, make it so it's not an apples to apples thing. And one of the ways you can do that is develop your brand, your personality, your product even on social media. Because when, to your point about that client,
that was an easy sell.
Yeah, they didn't call anybody else. They called that person.
Yeah.
You know?
So do it. I think we covered that.
Yeah.
And then next of all, I'd say the biggest thing that helped me as someone, I wasn't the owner of the company, was it didn't all fall directly on me. I was responsible for collecting the footage and doing the narrative. And outside of that, we had an editor. Maybe you could explain how the system of how Tussie did this was built, because that was in place when I came.
Yeah, so how it evolved to the point where you took it over then was, so in the beginning, when I was saying back when we started doing the weekly YouTube video was 2013, and I wanted to do some additional stuff so I could grow my income essentially. And so Steve and Matt gave me the opportunity to take over the social media, and I just started beating my head against a wall on a laptop trying to figure out how to edit videos. And I ultimately started doing YouTube videos, and it got more and more serious, got more and more sucked into all the cinematography, making a really, really high level production. Like, I really enjoyed that craft of filmmaking, probably almost too much. But it got to the point where to get that weekly video out on YouTube year round was, it was a grind.
It was unattainable, really.
Yeah. I was running a crew in the field, which is usually a 50-hour work week-ish. And plus, to get one of those videos out, like what I was doing, was a solid day of work. And so what usually that meant that was happening was I was working at night, weekends, taking a rain day or half day here to get it done. And so I went out and actually found an editor on a Facebook group that I was part of, like a filmmaking Facebook group. And I started slowly handing my process off. If you don't have a process already, this won't really apply, but like basically what I started doing was like getting the editor to take the raw footage and get me a rough cut, and then I would do the polish. But over time it was like, actually your rough cut's good enough. Like, it's fine, take it. And this editor was really, really good at looking at what we had done in the past and mirroring it. Like, it got to the point where you couldn't tell who edited what. So ultimately what ended up happening is we kind of created this system where I would just take my camera. I had a little bag with my camera and SD cards and batteries in it, And that's what I took to every job every day. And I would go out there in the field and have a GoPro running for time-lapse footage, and I would use my camera to narrate what we were doing on the job that day. And then I would just come back, offload those SD cards, and throw them up into Dropbox or whatever, and send him the link to the raw files. He would edit it, do the thumbnail, do the uploading, do the description, all of that. And so it got to the point where the only thing that the guy in the field had to do was shoot the video, offload the SD cards. And so that's essentially the process that Ben walked into. But maybe you could explain, like, okay, so if you got a crew lead out there running jobs, like, how much work is it? Like, what does that person have to do? Yeah. Like on a Monday morning, you show up and you have a 5-day job. What's it look like?
It's not as complicated as everyone thinks. It probably varies if you're doing a 3-month-long project, if you're doing a 1-day project. But if, say on a 2-week project, what I do I look for opportunities to explain just for a selling point. Say this project is really tight access and it's a small backyard. And so I might choose to make this video. I look at it beforehand, and I might choose to make this video about how Tussey Landscaping can work with your small backyard, and we can utilize every square inch of it and make it, super cool for you to enjoy. And so I look for those little information, or it might be they want a water feature, but their yard is perfectly flat. And so I would explain about, hey, if you want a water feature, we can make it even if your yard is completely flat. And then I'll just base that whole video on that.
So basically you're picking your title before you ever shoot your first thing.
Yeah, more or less. I have a pretty good game plan.
I would say that we were even kind of figuring that part of it out after you kind of took it over. Yeah. Because I would just kind of wing it, honestly. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it seems like you have a little bit better direction if you decide.
It's way easier.
You decide what you're going to do before it. And some jobs, like the one I'm on right now, is just, it's pretty, it's not a small yard. It's just, there's nothing special about it. And that's okay. Then you can use the opportunity to make it a how-to video, which is fine. Those tend to sometimes really blow up on the algorithm because if it's something that people search. Yeah. And that's okay. Or maybe you can talk, I've done lots of them where if there's just nothing that stands out on the job that you can utilize to set yourself as a company apart, you can talk about your install process. These are the kinds of stones we use, this is why we use them, and people who watch that can either A, find it helpful for their own project so they can stop doing it wrong, or B, they can see that you know your thing and that Tussey Landscaping is going to be a reputable company because they understand why and how things work that way. So with that being said, I usually have a pretty clear idea what I'm going to do when I start a project. We get time-lapse going right away. Do some befores. That's the first thing to do. Capture some befores, both still shots because you can use those for thumbnails and videos. You don't have to have a $10,000 worth of equipment. You can do this. We can do this with your phone and a GoPro.
Yep.
A drone is nice, but you don't have to have it.
Yeah.
So capture the before, do an intro. Hey, today we're going to be doing this project. If you have a design, show them the design. Another thing that's helpful to use for like shorts and reels, if you want to shoot, if you're using your phone, if you're shooting for YouTube, it's nice to have your phone, what is it, landscape?
Landscape,
and then for reels and shorts and stuff, the editor can then just pull that stuff out. I'll shoot both sometimes.
It's nice too.
So the editor can just make shorts and reels with those little tidbits.
Yep.
So first day we do the intro to the project, and then I will record maybe once a day as far as narrative. All the time I'm running time lapse. If it's a 1-day project, I might record 3 times a day because I need to get more footage.
Yep.
But if it's a 3-month-long project, I might record twice a week, where I give updates on what I build. And sometimes the best thing to do with a super long project is to do time lapse of the build, do befores and afters, and then pick one element out of that 3-month-long project that you really want to hone in on, the how-tos and the whys and I don't know. Each job is unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I do it. I found probably one of the most helpful things for me was to, before I start a project, see what it is that I could sell other people on that Tussey Landscaping is doing on this project.
Yeah.
So
I think was
Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's very helpful. And as you were describing that, I just realized how I would say you've gotten better at the process since I even handed it off.
Definitely.
I don't mean you as a person. I mean the process got better. The process itself got better. The way you just rattled that off, like I couldn't have. I don't think I could have articulated it that way 4 or 5 years ago when you took it over. And I think the most remarkable thing about that is like narrating once a day. So you're saying you're on the camera 5 minutes a day.
Everyone thinks it's a huge deal. I don't have time to do this. It's not.
And so you're basically, all you're doing is running a GoPro time lapse all the time.
And by the way, if you have guys helping you, the new guy, the summer help, put him on the time lapse. That's his baby. Don't waste your time doing that.
The foreman doesn't need to be doing that.
No,
Good
I don't do any of the time lapse. Someone else does that.
Exactly.
And
get a big battery.
yes, please. The GoPro batteries last about
Half a day.
13 seconds. So the first thing I did, I don't know what was wrong with Weston. I think I know what was wrong. He just made me swap the batteries.
Yeah, that's right. I did this.
The summer help.
I was like, I did it for 2 weeks and I was like, this really sucks. And so we bought big battery packs and now we charge and if the situation's right, just plug it directly into a power cord.
Yeah, right.
Especially if it's cold. The batteries get very difficult when it's cold.
Yeah.
GoPros suck. They need some competition.
Oh, DJI. Yeah, they've got some you could try them. Yeah, but I agree. GoPro's got some troubles, but they do get the job done.
I use them for time lapse.
But yeah, so it's basically. But if you're wondering what the activities of getting a social media presence like Tussey Landscaping going or running it, it's basically run time lapse all the time on all your jobs every day, and narrate according to the scope of the job. Like you were saying, like if it's a 1-day job, morning, noon, wrap up.
Yep.
And
Easy.
And if it's a week-long job, once a day. If it's a multi-month job, then you can get away with twice a week.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Because the scope, how fast things are happening is so much slower.
Yeah.
You know? So it's
Always a work in progress. We're still changing things, but right now that's where I'm at.
And I think the big thing that we learned as you were taking it over was, you know, I hadn't really, I just shot footage. And I remember going back and forth on Telegram conversations with you the summer after you took it over, how we were like, you're like, well, what do I pick to talk about? Or how do you just narrate? Like I just did it yesterday. What do you want me to do now? Yeah. You know, and it took a lot of conversations to kind of get to the point where like, you know, this is going to be the title of this video, and then all your narrative from then on is pertaining to that topic. It helps you present it, the whys, the how-tos, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So locking in that topic, that title before you even start is what makes it feel like there's actually a purpose.
Gives me direction.
Yeah, it makes it feel like there's a purpose instead of you're just meandering around like, hey, I guess this is me on the job.
Yeah.
Let's say you're an owner that you want your crew lead to do this. The owner could do the topic.
Yes, 100%. Please do that. It'll make it easier for your people that are learning, because it can feel overwhelming every day to film. What am I supposed to say? If you, as the owner who understands the company, who understands the industry, if you can do that for your
whoever's filming,
that's helpful.
Yeah.
At least I would find that helpful. Speaking of which,
what?
That's something Steve and Matt should do for me. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I believe I hadn't thought of that.
Well, speaking of Steve and Matt, let's switch to the other topic we were talking about. Ben was here for dinner, and so we were talking about what we should discuss on the podcast tonight. And one of those was Tussey's got a pretty special crew of people. Like, how does that happen? Or how did it happen? And there's a lot of people out there that crave what Tussey has in terms of a workforce and skill and talent and work ethic. And,
you know, what's it take to make it happen? And the other thing I would say is worth bringing up to frame this subject is that Ben has also, in the wintertime, really been a big help for SynkedUP, going to all of these trade shows, which really helped get my road time reduced, which was really, really nice. But Ben is, I don't know, you've probably done, I bet you it's getting close to 100 trade shows
Probably.
by this point, meaning very, very, it's probably not exaggerating to say thousands of conversations with contractors all over, basically from the Midwest to the Northeast, you know. And so here, not only do you have your experience at Tussie, and I think a lot of owners look at that as a model to follow after, but you've also seen and discussed with a lot of different business owners all across North America. We're going to talk about two questions. One, with your experience with talking to thousands of contractors, what are you seeing as an employee of a landscaping company that separates the ones that are going to make it and thrive from the ones that are just never going to be more than what they are today? We'll get there, but hang on a second. Before we get to that, let's talk about the owner and employee relationship. I have my own story with this employee-owner thing, but let's say a crew member is listening to this, or even a crew lead, and they're maybe frustrated that they can't see, you know, where the ladder leads from here, or, you know, feeling like they can't grow, or like, what's it take to succeed as a non-owner in a company like this, and you know, like, how do you replicate what you're doing essentially?
Yeah, these are the hard questions. Doing social media is much easier than this aspect of business. It is.
Yeah,
This is the difficult aspect of business. So I already know your story is you came to Steve and Matt and said, how can I, you know, I want to make a career out of Tussie. Let me make a career out of Tussie.
Yeah.
And they said, and you said, can I bring more value? And you saw a way to bring more value to the company. And so that in a nutshell is it. And there has to be two factors to that. One, the employee has to be looking to provide value. And two, the employer has to be wanting to enable his employee to make himself more valuable. You know, you can be within a company where you want to make yourself more valuable. The company isn't opening an avenue for you to do that.
The owner is the bottleneck.
The owner is the bottleneck. Like, you can be within, and to say that means you have to be in the right company, unfortunately, because you can have all the right intentions. I want to make myself valuable. I want to make a career out of this. I don't want to spend the rest of my days just cutting grass. You know, I want to find some value so that I can make a real career out in the landscape industry. And you have to be in a company that's going to open a door to let that happen. And then, yeah, like I said, you also have to be the employee that wants to go there. You obviously can't expect to make better money, to grow in the company, to be given more responsibility if you're not the kind of person who wants to grow. So you have to have those two things to start with.
You know, I think an interesting thing to note is there's people that are at Tussie Landscaping as long as I started the same time I started, and they're still doing roughly the same role. So it does come down to what you want, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Tussie needs those kinds of people, right?
Yes, they do. One of the things that's unique about Tussie that I think a lot of people want to replicate is there's very few employees there that are less than 5 years. Some of them are 20 years. Their employee retention is good. It's just a nice company to work for. They don't provide a lot of reasons for you to leave there. And one of the things that I think can happen sometimes to someone who's in the business for a long time, I'm thinking an established business, is I think they can lose a little bit of a connection with what it's like to be, I don't know how to say this exactly, to be a young person. You know, I had a lot of, Tussie almost lost me. I was going to quit because they weren't paying me enough. And I think that's not because Matt and Steve were stingy, but because I think they had lost the connection. They've been a business owner for a long time. It's been a long time since they worked a 50-hour week and got paid hourly. You know what? Does that make sense?
100% it does, yeah.
And so I almost quit. And when they got wind that I was going to quit, they were like, "What's it take to keep you here?" And I think that's a question that I shouldn't have said, "I'm going to quit," before they ask, because not everyone is going to say that. I could have just walked off. Matt and Steve were the kind of person who had that conversation then, and that was addressed and fixed. And so, if you wouldn't want to live on the wage that you're paying your employee, he probably doesn't want to either. But the flip side of it is that employee has to be providing the value to the check that he wants.
Exactly.
So it's a two-team effort. You have to, as an employee, you need to be providing the value for the check that you want. And as an employer, when that employee is providing that value, you have to, or has the potential to provide that value. Because I think there's probably a time in every employer's life where he's paying an employee more than he's bringing
More
value.
than they're worth. Yep.
But they see a potential.
Yeah.
And that is a risk. He may never get there.
That's the risk of being a business owner.
I think so.
Yeah.
So some of that stuff is pretty hard for me to articulate, but I think I said what I meant to say there.
I mean, it takes two to dance.
Yeah, it does.
It cannot be a one. If only the employer wants it or only the employee wants it, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And the best, I think another thing you mentioned there is, let's say it is in that situation where one wants it, the other one doesn't, or maybe is oblivious to it.
Yeah.
Is to have the courage to broach the subject.
Yeah.
Before you make a decision about like I'm quitting or here's my 2-week notice or whatever.
Yeah.
Because well, I know Greg Whitstock. That's always
The drum he beats is like, people just tell you they're quitting. They never tell you why or say this is what I need to thrive.
Some of that maybe they don't know.
yeah, right. Maybe they've never had an experience where an owner wanted to be broached or approached or have that conversation. But let me ask you this: what does the owner need to do for you? What does the company need to do for you as an employee to be like, cool, I'm good?
I think that can vary a lot from person to person because there's people in the company, they don't want extra responsibility. They're excellent employees. They do the hard work of putting the product in the ground. And what might be super important to them is that they don't get 1 minute over 40 hours. They want to work their 40 hours. They're reliable, they're steady, and that's what they want. They want a fun, happy culture where there's not all kinds of drama, where there's systems and processes, where they work their 40 hours, they get paid a good wage, and that's all they do. They don't want to climb into the company, and they don't have to. And Tussie needs those people. So when it says what does an employee need, what does an employer need to do, I think first of all you have to be the kind of an approachable person so that you can find out what your employee wants of you. And for myself, you can't give me too many hours. I want to grow. I want to move up.
I'll vouch for that. It's insane.
I want to reach the next step, and it's important that Tussie continues to open those doors for me. I want to scale the company. Maybe one day I'll buy it from Matt and Steve. I don't know. I'm just saying I never want to reach the point where I'm like, okay, this is the top.
Yeah.
I'm never done necessarily. And that's the exact opposite goal as some of the people in the company. That doesn't make me a better employee or them a better employee. It's just we have different visions and goals. And so I think you need to communicate.
So what you're saying is you can have two good people with different visions and goals that don't belong in the same company, and that's okay. And the sooner you know that, the better. But do so with an intentional conversation, not assumptions and never having a conversation.
Yes. I think that summarizes it.
What do you need to do for the company? Like, okay, so sure, everybody wants more money. That's not the problem. And the employer,
necessarily.
Yes.
Some people are not very motivated by money.
True. Yeah, I know a handful of them. Yeah. But the point, let's say the employer, it's not the employer's. Let's say the employer is doing their part. What does the employee need to be doing? And I think I am going to say for the one that wants more than what they have today, the one that's not satisfied with their 40 hours, or for the employee that wants more than what they're doing today, whether that's financial, whether that's work life, whether that's culture, whether that's the processes or the equipment they get to run, fill in the blank. Like, what does that employee need to do?
That's a hard question. I'm better at talking about what the employer should do.
Good one.
If I start to feel like I'd like to be, I'd like more responsibility. I'd like to be making more money. The first thing I start asking myself is, what does the company need that I could bring? And one of the things that does for you is you start thinking like the business owner. What is valuable to the company, and how can I bring that? And that can reach into 1,000 different ways. That can mean, I think I should be getting paid a little bit more because we have to be at the shop at 7. I come in at 6 and I want to prep everything so that we're ready to go out the door, because that increases production and it cuts 2 days off of when the job's going to be completed. As an employee, if you want to be growing, if you want to be moving up, you have to be bringing more value to the company. Is that right?
Yeah,
I think you have to be bringing more value.
The tough part is, well, define value.
Yeah.
And I think.
Well, it can be small, it can be big. It can be running a social media channel. It can be showing up an hour early to make sure that everything's done. It can mean that after supper in the evening, you're sitting down and you're looking at your project for the next day to make sure that you have everything in place to go for it.
Yep. I think in the context of a person that's working out in the field, getting the work done, value, probably the largest opportunity for bringing the value is what you just kind of rattled off there, which is you as the employee out there getting the work done actually have a very key and unique perspective about what it is that is preventing the company from being efficient. And are you going to show up with an attitude of just, well, it is what it is, I get my 40 hours and it's not my problem? Or you could completely switch into another gear in your brain and be thinking through the lens of the efficiency, like how can we increase efficiency? And sometimes it might be like, oh, I need a tilt rotator. Well, yeah, sure, okay, but that's an $60,000 machine, and sure, it'll make you more efficient. But think hard.
Do that too.
Yeah, do that too. But think harder than that. What else?
Yeah.
Like to your point, like opening up the job the day before and just kind of like mental checklist. Okay, do I have everything good to go? Is everything staged? Is everything ordered? Is everything all of that stuff? Showing up early so that when the other 3 guys show up, they can just jump in the truck and run. Like. Really, I think if you're an employee out there in the field getting the work done, probably the most universal way that you can bring more value to the company is show up, use your brain, think, and make really good suggestions about how to make the company more efficient, and care when things go over estimate, over budget. Because making the company more efficient is tremendous, and what that looks like is tremendous in terms of making the company profitable. Is what I'm trying to say, and what that looks like is taking a 10-day job and getting it done in 9. That's what it looks like, and there's a lot of things. Every company is a little bit unique. Every company's yard is a little bit different. Their equipment and their truck fleets are a little bit different. Their crew structure is a little bit different. The owner might do a little bit of a different role in the company. So it is unique. It's not just copy paste for every different company. And that's why the employee that shows up and wants it and is there to contribute and not just point fingers at problems, but come with ideas and suggestions, that to me is probably one of the most universal ways to describe what value looks like for a crew member out in the field.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Let's switch to the owners. So you've had, I don't know how many thousand conversations with owners that are doing basically at a SynkedUP booth.
Yeah.
And Ben went off on a 3-minute nonstop monologue about what the difference is between the guys that are going to make it and the ones that aren't going to make it, and how you can just you can tell.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The question is, what is the difference? How can you tell? What is the difference between the company that's just never going to be more than what they are right now versus the ones that are really going to do well?
My analysis may be wrong.
No, it was on. It was on.
But I started to think this early this year. I was just finishing up trade shows, and you start to kind of see patterns because you talk to so many different contractors, and they're all across. It's not just this region. They're all across United States, and So I know each of them has their own special challenges to their region. But one of the things that I saw over and over again was, and I know you hear this everywhere, but you can't fix mindset. If the mindset's broken, the company's doomed. It's never going to grow. I'm sorry. And what I mean by that is you start talking to someone about different equipment, about, SynkedUP, about softwares, about new programs, about employees. And the successful companies, the ones that are growing rapidly right now, and the ones that have already grown, they're open to these ideas. You hear things, people that don't grow, you hear things like, so they tried software, but that's too much money. I mean, that's not for us. I mean, we don't even have an excavator. We'll just use a wheelbarrow. We've got 2 guys and we could never charge that for our projects. And they're offering a low dollar project, and it's probably mediocre or low quality at best. And they're not buying the new equipment. They're not investing in software. And you know what else? They attract people like themselves to themselves. And that's another thing that's a huge problem, because then they're always whining about their people. You can't find any good help. And I had one guy, and he stole from me, and he left for another company. I would have left for another company as well.
Exactly.
And so it's like I can start seeing that these people don't even want to make it. They want it to be broke, really. And so it will be broke. And the people that are either rapidly growing or have grown into large companies, they're all the exact opposite of that. We can implement this. We can use this new piece of equipment. This would be potential to help us grow. There's a whole untapped market there. We can do water features. We're going to get into swimming pools. And they attract people like themselves to themselves, and it snowballs. The Matts and Steves attract people like Weston and I who want to make the company grow. We're not going to waste our energy on the companies that are in still water and they're going to stay there. Mm-hmm. And so I don't even really feel qualified to say this because I've never started out on a business on my own. I've never been a business owner. And I don't know if the solution is just go out there and buy and to invest into literally everything that's on the market, every new software, every new piece of equipment I'm not saying that's it, but I do see a distinct mindset of people who succeed and people who don't succeed. I think that's.
It comes down to a mindset, and
it does come down to a mindset.
The thing that you said is like the people that have every excuse in the book why this won't work for them or it won't work in their area, and you said, well, you just want to be broke. And what's so tricky about that is, you and I can look at it and be like, that's obviously they just want to be broke, but they would never say that to themselves in their own heads. Nobody wants to be broke. You know what I'm saying? They would never use those words to say, I want to be broke. But the thing that they're blind to is they're showing up that way in every area of their life. Mm-hmm. They're showing up.
I can't imagine they sell well either.
No, it's a broke mindset, and usually
I don't know how to. I don't know how to fix that for someone.
Well,
I know that SynkedUP isn't going to fix them.
Well, yeah, right. It's like SynkedUP is just another tool. It's like buying a machine, but then if you never turn the key on in it, it's worthless. It's a hunk of iron. It's not going to do anything for you. I think to that point. We all are the product of our environment. Our mindsets are shaped by how we grew up and the people that were around us. Mm-hmm. And many people are suffering from not being in a good environment when they grew up. And so what ends up happening is you're not very self-aware. You're oblivious to your broke mindset. But you do feel the pain of the poor decisions. Yes. So I think there's maybe Maybe one way that you could reflect on it and be like, am I the problem? Is like, well, maybe one way of answering that is every problem somebody else's fault? Mm-hmm. If it's always somebody else's fault or always circumstantial or my market won't support it or the economy and Trump did what, blah, 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 blah. If it just goes on and it's always an external reason for why something is not the way you want it, it's never internal, well then,
And this is true for those people.
Yeah.
Every time.
It is. It is.
And I'm sure that there are people that evaluate my own life, and I know there's spaces like that in my life, and so you never stop growing.
Well, you never stop growing, exactly. There was another thing I was going to say about that. The other thing I was going to say is like, go to school. I have not gone to college, but what I mean is go to the school of life. And what I'm saying about that is sales, which is a very key part of growing a business, is an art. Understanding how to close deals, it's not, like in its raw, unpolished form, it's a used car salesman. The stereotypical used car salesman, like where it's like high pressure and, all my competition's $100 cheaper or whatever. That's what it is. But that's not how you're gonna, if that's the kind of sales you're doing, you're not gonna thrive in the outdoor living industry. So what I mean by the whole going to school thing is get around mentors, do something. Either it's get around mentors, get a business coach, do some sales training. I mean, shoot, you could even just go on YouTube and watch oodles of YouTube videos or podcasts from sales podcasts like Yes Express is one, Contractor Fight is another one. Like they're out there. And the point is succeeding in this stuff as a business owner in sales, training your people, being the kind of person that Ben was saying attracts other good people, is personal development.
Yeah.
And understanding your own frame of references in life and your own lens with which you look at things in life and finding out where those things might be warped or wrong or broken and rewiring it to fix it to get the results that you want. And we talked to so many contractors at SynkedUP. I mean, to the same point where you talked to them at the trade shows, Ben.
Would you see that? Do you see the same pattern?
100%. Yeah. Yes. It is a mindset thing, and you could talk for hours without running out of examples, but I think probably the best way to get right to the core of it is every problem you're experiencing somebody else's fault, or do you take ownership of it and deal with it? And sometimes you have a person that's willing to take the ownership of it and deal with it, but just isn't quite sure what or how. And my answer to that person is find the mentor, find the sales coach, listen to the podcasts, be a sponge for information. Don't be afraid to take a risk and try things. And you were kind of saying, Ben, like, I don't know what you would do. You haven't been an owner. Like, do you just go out and buy everything there is to buy? No, it's more. There's a right time and a right place for everything. Sometimes the right time will come to buy the tilt rotator, but not on month one of business. So there's a sequential ladder to succeeding, to growing, and you got to get the cart before the horse. You can't get the horse before the cart. And sometimes I think,
did you mean to say it?
Yeah, did I say it the right way? I forget.
You got to get the horse before the cart. That's what you meant to say?
Whatever. I'm not going to try to relive that one. But you get the idea. And the point is there's a sequence to success. And I think in the age of, this is what gets a lot of people tripped up, is in the age of social media where you're comparing yourself to the rest of the world. I'll tell you a story of exactly how I saw this happen, where Tassie Landscaping built, there was another landscaper joined SynkedUP in the early days, looking at Tassie and being like, man, that's just incredible. Man, how do I do that? Man, I'm working out of this old dilapidated building. How do I look at that shop, look at that yard? And I was like, hey, what year of business are you in? He's like, 5 years. And I was like, you know that shop that Tassie has? They built that in year 17. And I just say that to make a point. It doesn't mean that you have to go be in in business 17 years before you can do a nice shop and stuff. But the point is compare yourself to where you were yesterday, not to everybody else. And just recognize that, sure, that shop is a great thing, can help you be more efficient, can help you take care of your equipment and store more items, to make your crews more efficient and all of that. Yes, 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 yes. But that's all meaningless if you don't have your office processes dialed in, if you don't have your numbers dialed in, if you don't have your crew training and your ability to recruit good people dialed in. And so getting steps 1 through 10 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, rather than trying to get step 9 first and then step 2 next and step 7, pay attention to what sequence what things you're chasing and ask yourself, is this a now thing or is this a in 3 years thing?
Yeah.
You know, and one thing to remember is business is hard. It's messy, but sometimes you just got to let certain dumpster fires burn. You can't boil the ocean. You can't solve every problem at once. And yes, sometimes you should figure out the solution to that problem, and the day will come when you need to. But the other thing I see contractors doing is making mountains out of molehills, trying to solve. Yes, it's a problem. Yes, it should be solved, but it is by far not your biggest problem. And the attention that you're giving to that little problem that should be solved is robbing you of succeeding on the very one that's killing you.
But it's been a number of years since I've read it. Problem solving. There's like you create this box, and the gist of the story was to keep yourself from being a fireman who's always operating in urgency or you know, he's putting out the fire. Well, you were just describing that about solving the wrong problem.
Yep.
And that book, I remember, talked about that. So you can prioritize the problems and take care of what's on the plate that needs fixed so that your life can be organized enough so that you can fix those other dumpster fires that need to be fixed, but they're probably not going to get fixed until you have these core things in place.
Yeah.
That was the gist of it.
Yeah.
And I really wish I could remember what it was. It was either you or Reynold that told me about the book.
Or shoot me the link. We'll put it in the show notes. We'll find
it.
Yeah. Good conversation.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Was it?
Yeah.
It makes me think and put into words some of the things that I know are there. But it's good to dig down into the hows and whys of what makes Tussie work even, because
exactly.
It helps me it brings a refresher. Life can be a drudgery, and sometimes you just, get caught putting in the hours.
Yeah, it's true.
And so this kind of conversation helps bring it up front about why I'm doing what I am.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that every person needs those kinds of moments. If you just trudge along and never look for inspiration, like it turns into a mundane thing really quickly. But I also am glad we got to do this because, when 3-4 years ago, when I wasn't on the channel anymore, people were wondering what happened to Weston and da-da-da-da. And so we did a whole video a while back about like the SynkedUP story and what we did. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool to now have you on the SynkedUP podcast.
Yeah. There's definitely a certain amount of confusion, whether SynkedUP is Tussie or Tussie is SynkedUP, or in trade shows, people know there's a connection there, but they're not sure exactly what that is.
Well, basically to clear it up is the owners of Tussie Landscaping basically put the money up to get the initial product out the door. And today, Steve and Matt, the owners of Tussie, are also partners in SynkedUP. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Beyond that, other than a little bit of like it's geographically close, so I can run out and try things and in exchange for breakfast sandwiches. Beyond that, there's really no connection beyond any other SynkedUP customer.
Yeah, I want you guys to hold him accountable to that whole breakfast sandwich thing. He makes those promises, but he doesn't always keep them.
I think I'll defend myself on that.
I think there's like a steak dinner that you owe someone for a bad scene
from
like 15 years ago. I'm just saying, we have evidence. That
I'm still going to say I'm right there wrong on that one.
No, there's not even a chance. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, hey, for those that aren't following Tussie, where can they go find you and actually see your content?
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
Tussie Landscaping.
Tussie Landscaping, yeah.
TUSSEY Landscaping. And Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. YouTube's it's getting close to 30K now in subscribers.
I think we're over that.
Is it over 30? Wow, it's impressive. I think that just crossed 10.
It doesn't grow very fast.
It's grown.
People are like,
yeah, it's the nature. It's the nature of the algorithm. But anyway, thanks for coming, Ben.
You bet.
And we'll make good on those breakfast sandwiches here directly.
I don't believe it.
We'll see ya.